Bar staff of Reddit, have you ever had a man use the safeword drink escape, and how often does it happen? Yes. I have had this happen in a venue I managed in Melbourne. The lady in question became very forward, slightly abusive and threatening. The gentleman was obviously concerned for himself and did not like the way the date had progressed. We booked him a taxi and walked him out a back exit whilst he was going to the toilet. I spoke to the lady and covered his half of the bill. She became hysterical, paid and then left. There was a huge power imbalance. Edit. Wow, that went a bit cray. Edit. My first gold and silver. Thank you, kind people. You are the only response in this entire thread who actually answered the bloody question. Thanks. Is that standard procedure? Book a taxi and take them to the back exit? Or was it more like an impromptu plan? So, I'm an innocent country boy and I try and often succeed to self-educate myself, but city culture is not something I'm well versed in. What was this guy fearing? That she would stab him or some shit? Edit. Jesus, I'm sick of Reddit. What the fuck am I doing wrong, lol? The replies are great and I don't care about karma, but I'm infuriated by behavior from others that follows no logic. I have been in a scenario like this. I was a busboy at a local pizza bar. So I just started my shift and I'm clearing a table and everything, and I notice a table where a female is being extremely loud and abrasive. I walk back to the dish room and the guy knocks his drink over, so I go to get it. He hands me a napkin and pretends to help me. So I go back into the kitchen and it just says call 911. So I tell my manager and he does so. So I told his waitress to bring him another drink and to say don't worry about the drink, accidents happen. She is getting worse and worse and we all can hear her saying that if he tries to leave her she would kill herself. So about 12 minutes later some cops show up. The guy is in tears when they show up. He runs to the bathroom and my boss points at the table and they take her out to the restaurant. This is where shit got wild. She begins to take her clothes off one by one to avoid being escorted out of the restaurant. So here we are during dinner rush, a naked ass crazy person stripping down, running around tables screaming about her boyfriend. She got to the point where she was grabbing silverware and throwing it at the cops and they dead ass tackle her and put her in cuffs, drag her naked ass out to the car. The poor boyfriend is in tears in the bathroom. I go check on him and tell him what happened and he apologized. I was like, dude, what caused all of this? He said we met on POF and this was our first date. I had no clue what to do. Edit. Wow, thanks for the gold, guys. I will try and respond to as many of these as I can. Now that is worst day of my life, honorable. I feel bad for the dude. Trying to find love but you end up crying in a restaurant because the girl you liked goes apeshit in a public place getting tackled down by cops. What's POF? I have to say, I wouldn't have thought of a paper napkin. 911. Props to the guy for keeping it cool and discreetly passing the note. He said we met on POF. Sigh, I never met anyone on POF. Yep, I work in a nightclub in a small town in England in Lincolnshire and I once had a guy who seemed to only recently turn 18 ask if Angela was working. I brought him into the glass wash room and turns out there were a bunch of lasses encouraging this one lass into seducing him, grinding up on him, trying to kiss him and groping him. This apparently continued even after the man had walked away into other parts of the nightclub after showing and saying he wasn't interested. I had reported this to my supervisor, who was a little hesitant at first but eventually called the bouncers into the back room too. We explained the situation to them. Now these guys are basically 200-300 pound tanks who you would expect to joke about this and tell this guy to man up and enjoy it, but to my surprise, they took it seriously as well. They managed to track down this group, 5 women including the one who was doing the grinding, and they escorted all of them out of the building. Meanwhile, a taxi had already been prepared by my supervisor and the taxi firm was literally down the road, so it didn't take long for it to arrive and I escorted the man through the back stairs that continues down to the stock cellar but leads off to the side exit of the building near the bins where the taxi was waiting. It would be a rare occasion when someone uses Ask Angela where I work, let alone a man, so I'm really glad that all of the staff took it seriously and helped as much as they could. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up. To those curious, it was in Lincoln. Brilliant town for a night out, TBH. This sounds like something that happened in my town. If it's the nightclub I'm thinking of, BB if it means anything to you. I'm shocked there isn't any ask for Angela signs there. Wait, I'm Englishman, where's these safety codes for who to ask for? I never see them. Reading this gives me hope. I'm so glad everyone took this seriously and made those women leave. No one deserves to feel unsafe, ever. Thank you for helping this guy. Sadly, I see this a lot. I'm a woman and an ex-friend of mine used to be so disgusting every time we would go out drinking. She would grab men, follow them, basically just sexually assaulting them and harassing them. It was so disgusting, but no one took it seriously. This was around 10 years ago. She would act like I was the crazy one for telling her she was being a creep and gross. It was one of the reasons our friendship ended. I couldn't stand the way she treated men, and people in general tbh. I'm so glad to see the attitude about this is finally changing. This woman literally seemed to believe that just because these were men they wanted to be groped, but obviously that isn't true. It's probably the same idea these women in your story have, sadly. UK here. Usually, and more, security staff go to courses and way more often than not, are driven to this job with empathy, safety for everyone and anyone, protecting people and businesses. I am not surprised to read this. Sure, they often look like bears who were in Vietnam, but hey. I had a woman at a bar on business one night. She came up to me after about 20 minutes after I sat down alone. I was having a rough day, she apparently was having a great one. Sitting there drinking my beer, she kept talking to me, grabbing me, and kept asking for us to leave because she would fug my brains out. Mind you, this woman was an obvious regular barfly and had been overserved. At one point, I got up and pretended my Asian buddy across the way, actually a stranger, was my best friend. She eventually made her way over and kept touching me. I asked the bartender if she could help me. She actually pretended to be a friend of mine also, said I was a part owner of the establishment, brought me into the office and let me sit there with her and the guy in the office. They gave me free food, let me finish my drink, had a good conversation, and some to-go food too. They felt terrible that a new guy had all these problems, I guess, but they treated me well and got me out of there unscathed. I can still see her whacked out hairstyle and the cigarette smoke that she stank of. Cool of the bartender to do that. Geez, thank goodness for those bartenders. Does it not register in these people's minds that this kind of behavior is literal harassment? That's a cool bartender. Had something happen to me like this. I was at the bar drinking alone after having a rough day at work and this one lady starts to massage my shoulders and I keep saying that I have a girlfriend who's working here. So I go to the bartender and say, "Hi babe, can I talk to you for a second?" She immediately realized what was going on and brought me to the back of the kitchen and gave me free food and drinks. I used to work in a bar in Orlando and one Friday night were pretty heavy and have a guy, regular, and a lady on a date at the bar and it looks pretty well until he asks for 2 stomach shots, aka please help me. I really don't want to be here with them and he excuses himself as our manager calls him a taxicab and explain to the lady and she gets mad and tries to leave saying that a man should pay for the bill no matter what. A man should pay for the bill no matter what. Lol. How does someone know the safe word? And what if the other knows the safe word? Did the guy pay for his own drinks at least? Disclaimer, Where is Angela is a scheme to get people out of dodgy dates in the UK. This happened to me. A man came up to the bar and said, "Hi there, do you know where Angela is?" I wasn't sure I heard him right, so I replied, "Sorry, what was that?" He then repeated, "Do you know where Angela is?" whilst giving me a funny look with his eyes. We had just had a new starter at the company called Angela who was working in the kitchen. The bar I worked at is in a restaurant. The fact he referred to her by name and his facial expression made me think he was a friend spouse of hers, but he wasn't sure if she was working today or that he was at the right restaurant. I told him I'd check the back for her. She was in the kitchen, so I went back to the bar and told him to follow me. I then pointed him towards Angela and he glanced over to her and said, "Oh, right. Cheers," and then ran out of the fire escape next to her, one of those ones with the bar to open, setting a loud alarm off. My manager came running and asking what was wrong, and I told him what had happened. My manager stopped the alarm and informed me that Where's Angela is a new scheme the police have brought in, but he hadn't got round to telling us. I told my manager that it would have been nice to have been informed. TL. Dr. Man asked for Angela. I did not know it was a code word. Somehow it worked out in the end. My manager sucked. Edit. RIP my inbox. Thanks for the gold, silver, platinum comments, kind internet strangers. I told my manager that it would have been nice to have been informed. Yeah, it would have. Lol. So I pointed to her at the end of the bar. He said thanks and immediately ran through a plate glass window just beyond her. I haven't done it personally, but a friend had it happen to him who is a bartender. He was finishing up his shift when a man walks up to him, asking for a safeword drink. I forget what he said it was called, might have been the Angela drink, and said he wanted it on the rocks. Friend just said yeah, sure, and helped him to the taxi. Just as the man got in the taxi, the woman he had been there with came running out towards the taxi and yelled profanities, calling the man she had been with fucking white trash and he'll never amount to anything and some shit like that. Last I heard, she was banned from that bar, and several others, while the man who got help became a bit of a regular. Edit. This was around 4-5 years ago, so the details are a bit rusty. Angel shot is always the one I heard. Order an angel shot neat and a bartender will escort you to your car. Ask for it with ice and the bartender will call a taxi or Uber for you. Order it with lime and the restaurant staff will call the police. Worked in a pub in Ireland as a bouncer. Not a common thing here to have a get me out of here shot. So no signs or that, but there was some Facebook post calling them angel shots that did its rounds. Girls would say they've to go to us and we'd know. No code words or shit. Anyway, one night I'm doing my thing in this nice bar, and a guy approaches me in front of a group of friends being a bit boisterous from a fancy restaurant across the road, and he says he needs an angel shot. So we let him in, but I hold him there questioning his ID as his friend make fun of me and him as I'm 22. This guy was maybe 35ish and I was a kid telling a man no. So they hang about for him, so I can't ask him what's up. I tell him no, he's had too much tonight. I hail a taxi down and he pretends to resist getting in, so I basically pick him up and carry him into the taxi. He throws me 50 euros into my jacket pocket discreetly and the taxi goes off then. Nothing big. 2 days later I'm working again, same bunch of guys from the restaurant come over. The angel shot guy isn't there. 3 days later angel shot guy comes but very early and explains it all to me. Turns out his friends were doing coke, all professional people, and a girl was raped in the bathroom. He said at first she wanted to have sex with one of them, but then 2 guys came in, then she wanted out and couldn't. This guy tried to interject but couldn't and then felt uncomfortable and didn't want a part of this, so wanted to leave but was told if he did they'd hurt him, and the reason they all returned 2 days later was his going away drinks that he didn't attend, obviously. The guys were then charged like a month later. Can't find public info on it anymore. Only time I ever had to use the get me out of here shot. Those guys are fucked up. Glad one of them isn't. I wonder what happened to the poor girl. Only had one incident of a man using Ask for Angela, UK safeword scheme. Gay kid on a bad date. His date had been extremely overbearing and even having to witness it from the bar was extremely uncomfortable. We smuggled him into the kitchen and out the side door while his date went to the bathroom and called him a taxi. Date came back from the bathroom, asked where the kid was. I just went dunno. Date started getting aggro with me, so supervisor ended up throwing this guy out by the collar. It honestly doesn't get used enough, by either men or women, especially here in the UK. It absolutely sucks, especially when you as a bartender can't really legally do much or you risk not only your job, but the bar's reputation. Edit. Just for clarification, the victim was 19. Legal age of drinking alcohol in UK is 18. So yes, he is still technically a kid. I live in the UK and I haven't ever heard of Ask for Angela, so I think that may be why it doesn't get used much. If a security guy counts as bar staff. Was in a nightclub, working instead of a friend who had an exams next day. I took his 2 shifts since I had whole week free. There was a date where the guy was definitely afraid of a girl. Asked for permission to engage and decided to calm 2 down. I took the man to our security booth where you have camera control, who was literally shaking out of fear. I had him calm down, paid for cold soda myself and gave one to the guy and I drank one myself instead of cigarettes. I hate smoking. After it, a nice talk. Turned out he was a businessman. I called him a taxi. Wanted to give me equivalent of $300. I said no, it's my job, but he insisted. Damn, it's out when you paycheck equals 800 USDs. Taxi arrived and took that guy to his home. He thanked me once again and gave me his number. Sadly I don't have it anymore. But still nice thing to happen. And just in case, it happened in Poland. Did he tell you why he was afraid? How do those safewords work when the person you are trying to get away from is the same gender? They put the signs with the special safeword in the restroom and they work great when you need to get away from the opposite sex. But how does that work when the person you are wanted to get rescued from is the same sex? Because if they use the restroom they have seen the sign with the safeword, and if you use it in front of them, they will know what you are doing. Edit. Insane amount of upvotes in such a short amount time. 2000 plus in 2 hours. WTF. I suppose you can make an excuse to go to the bar or the bathroom and stop by the bar on the way. I was wondering the same thing. Safeword drinks are typically in lady restrooms, so you can be discreet when ordering and the man doesn't know what you've done. I used to visit a gay bar in Nick pretty often. There was a single occupant restroom and a larger men's restroom. Neither had a code word drink because it defeats the purpose if all parties know it exists. At that point, just tell the bartender or bouncer, this person is bothering me, can you help? I've never had a man say anything. I've had a woman write down on a napkin and hand it to me via discreet handshake that said call 911, I'm afraid. So I called 911, because IDK you say call the cops, I'm not about to doubt it and be held liable for anything, and turns out the dude had 3 dead cats in his trunk. Homegirl dodged a bullet. Craziest bar story of my whole career. Well, of course. You can't cook a live one. I wonder if the guy had some plan to impress her with that many dead cats? So, how many dead cats have you ever seen at one time? Fewer than 3? That's some Neo level dodging right there. Holy shit. Not an angel shot, but last week I had to meet my abusive ex-wife to talk about something to do with our kids. I'm a male. I insisted that we meet in public, so she agreed to meet at Chili's. Throughout the meal, she was mean and hateful and cruel to me, but she was quiet about it. I wasn't crying or anything. She was just being threatening and quiet to me. At a point during the lunch, our waiter positioned himself behind her and mouthed these words to me, "Are you okay?" I sort of shook my head no, because I was afraid of leaving when the time came. We paid the check and got up to leave and the manager appeared with the waiter. The manager stood between my ex and me and told her, politely, that she needed to leave on her own. Before she could become belligerent, the manager explained that he had called the police and that she needed to leave. He then asked me, quietly, to just sit down and wait. They brought me another soda. The cops showed up quickly and made sure my ex had left. They walked me to my car and then followed me home to make sure I was okay. Not an angel shot, but these workers were angels to me. They paid attention to a terrifying situation and helped me more than they will ever know. So great to hear that people are finally realizing that men can be the victims of abuse too. As a victim of abuse, just like you are describing, it can be chilling when society expects that we should somehow just be strong enough to take it. Which is part of the reason male suicide risk is so high and in many cases shows no warning indicators. Keep fighting the good fight, and know that even though we may not technically be part of the Me Too type movements, that these kind of experiences show that we're all fighting for the right to be treated as human beings with feelings that deserve to be respected. Considering this harrowing tale, I might suggest a username change. What if the person you are trying to get away from knows the safeword? This is where it breaks down for me. You are on a date but can get to the bar by yourself without them hearing. You'd think just outright saying there is a problem rather than a euphemism would be better. As it could be I just don't like this person right up to this is an aggressive stalker. Call the police. If they do hear you say it, they could be anywhere from disappointed to violently outraged. It also puts a lot on the bar staff. They are responsible for smuggling someone out and dealing with the person left alone after. This is what I was wondering. The angel shot has been on the internet so much that people will know it. If bars use Angel Shot, it will no longer have the same effect. So bars, make up 2 of your own and hang one in the ladies' room, and the other in the men's room. I work in small cocktail bars in Sydney, Australia, prime date night joints. We have something called Ask for Angela, where the idea is you just ask the bar staff if Angela is working tonight and that'll be the hint to keep an eye on things or even call a cab. I've only had one customer, man or woman, ever use it, a nice younger guy on a date with an older gentleman. The issue was threefold. A venue at the time had quite a few backpackers on working holidays that were completely unaware of this protocol. We had a lovely Chinese girl who went by Angela working that night, and that the date was going poorly in such a fashion that to the untrained eye, it looked like 2 work acquaintances having a drink. There was that little chemistry between them. Apparently the older gentleman followed the younger in the bathroom and copped a feel, prompting the Ask for Angela. It was a huge runaround, to be honest. It took quite a while for a native English speaker to tune into the argument behind the bar where Angela was explaining that she had no idea who this guy was. So eventually he got some help. He ordered 2 cocktails at the bar, asked if Angela was working tonight, saying she made them the best. We ended up ordering an Uber for him while he feigned an emergency, and brought their drinks out in time that the older bloke sorta felt obligated to stay and finish them, just as his Uber arrived. Unfortunately, a lot of bars have joined the Ask for Angela campaign. It's government sponsored, posted the signs in their ladies' rooms, and called it a day. No staff training. This is because it puts you on a government list of safe bars and, well, nobody can give up free publicity. Very disappointing. I also believe it needs to better extend to men on poor dates as well. I rarely see the posters in men's rooms, just unisex and ladies. 100% agree with the training issue. Was a Sydney bartender for 5 years, seen this on several occasions. So many people coming for 6 months working visa. They can make a vodka lime soda, but they often don't get taught how to be a bartender. Find it to be a big issue in Australia. Hospitality and quality of service is generally pretty average. Okay, I'm gonna use this post as a pedestal for this information for those of us in the industry. As a restaurant person who is a barely functioning alcoholic, if you have a friend in the industry who is drinking at your bar and asks for a shot glass of water, please give it to them. Keeping up appearances in the industry is incredibly important. I do 1 shot and 1 beer with my crew when we go out, then the rest is nursing a bucket of ice water with a few stirrers and a lime in it so I don't get shitty. I truly believe that the industry is perfect for people with a certain set of priorities, but one of the tolls is drinking and casual drug use. It's often easier to fake than to bail. Stay healthy and make your bed every morning. Love you. Kitchen guy here. The life is changing though. None of my guys care if I don't get drunk with them. They know I'm the type to have a beer or 2 and that's it. I'll still chill with them and play pool or darts or whatever, but they're super nice about it. I'm a man and I've appealed to staff before. It is better than confronting them. I did, however, stand up from a poker tournament when I saw the guy pushing his girlfriend around. Luckily by the time I got over there a couple dozen other people were right behind me. Did you have to go all in on that round? Not quite the same, but I worked in a coffee shop on a busy high street this year and had a similar sort of thing happen. We noticed one customer had come in, ordered, and sat opposite the counter, which meant that he was staring at me and my other female colleagues for about 30 minutes straight. We wondered if he was high as he didn't seem aware of himself, but his gaze was following me as I walked up and down the counter, which was about 8 meters long. We then closed and the customers sitting inside left, including a very nice, young couple who walked up the street away from the shop, as did the weird guy. About 10 minutes later, the couple came back to the door, which we had locked, and knocked, saying they'd left a phone behind. They came in and told us that the man had followed them for 10 minutes towards their home. So they came back to hide. No, but I have a slightly relevant story. Slightly. It involves a bar and a guy at least Mayo. I'm a line cook at one. I was kinda chilling in the hallway to gauge how busy we were getting so I could possibly take a break before we picked up. A very sweet, kinda nerdy guy got up from the bar and quickly walked towards the bathroom. On his way, he started crying. I walked into the bathroom with him and asked if he was okay. He said his date texted her boyfriend that he didn't know about and some of his friends to come jump the guy because he couldn't afford to pay for all 8 of her cranberry vodkas. He said she was probably serious because he was peeping at her text, so she was nodding in and out. Definitely the bartender's fault for letting her get so fucked up. I told my manager. We put his tab on hold and escorted him out of the back door and hid him in the owner's truck. He was drunk enough that we didn't feel comfortable letting him drive, and Uber may take too long if this ass beating actually happens. So I smoke my cigarettes, and almost immediately after walking back inside, I hear a Doucher bag pull in. You know, a guy doing a burnout into the parking lot in his burgundy 1996 Honda Civic with mismatched bumpers, fenders and half of the hood spray painted matte black. I grab my manager and we pretend to have a conversation outside. He walks in. He was alone thankfully, grabs the skank from the bar and walks out. They ask if we've seen the guy she was with and we told him he was throwing up really bad, so we called him an Uber. I know we should have said no, but there were only like 5 people at the bar at the time. Everyone definitely saw him walk through the back door of the kitchen with us. Dude gets pissed off saying his girl isn't paying for the tab and starts throwing rocks at our fucking windows. Owner grabs an old pool cue from the back and holds it above his head ready to kill this dude until the police got there. Mayo. Super douche and cranberry hose speed off after a few more rocks and a half-ass swing at the owner, which resulted in a full power pool cue to the wrist. We eventually really did call the dude and Uber, paid for the chick's drinks for him. He insisted he paid for his and the Uber, so we let him. Police were upset that we let the victim go before they could get a report and asked to watch our videotapes, which we only have inside unfortunately. I don't know what happened after that, as I quit shortly after for a better position. Fucking craziest day at work though. I had one really bad date that stands out. I knew the bartenders because I was a regular. She was from out of town, 20 minutes away, not far, and when I met her a few things stood out. First off, she was nothing like her OkCupid profile, common thing I've learned over the years, for everyone. Second, she kept talking. Like IDK, saying weird stuff and using weird words like it's all okay, when I die I'm going to leave I up to God, and she kept using words that have no relevance to English to describe the act of dying or being dead. I've dated religious people, Wiccans, all kinds of stuff, but I've never found another psychological specimen quite like this one. The thing that really broke the camel's back was when she took the tomato off a burger and fucking threw it on the floor, saying that all vegetables taste like dirt was what got me. I asked Chuck, my bartender, if he could distract her, and he did. I left a $100 and promptly left. The bar staff got a $40 tip and they never forgot that. To this day they still make me good drinks and cut me good deals. Love them all. That girl probably tasted like dirt, and her personality belonged next to that tomato, on the floor. Not staff, but I got one. I'm a semi-regular at this bar I started going to, and I've gotten to know all the staff there pretty well. One night this guy was there, new guy, only been there once before that I've seen him, and from what I heard he wasn't very well liked. A few too many drinks later he's standing at the bar talking to me, saying a bunch of unwarranted random shit. I'm a bigger guy, as was he, so I guess he felt the need to tell me, but it was things like, man, you could totally fuck a skinny bitch if you wanted to. Skinny bitches love big dudes, man. I'm telling you, they love to feel protected and shit. Don't think because you're a bigger guy you couldn't fuck a skinny bitch, cause you totally could if you wanted to. All out of nowhere. Hadn't talked to the guy all night. One of my bartender friends turns around and she says he doesn't need to fuck any skinny bitches, he's married, and shows him her wedding ring. The guy starts profusely apologizing, and I guess he had a moment of clarity, cause not too long after he got a cab and left, and I haven't seen him there since. Got one more time the same girl saved my ass. Gotta love making friends with bar staff. I used to work at a high quality seafood restaurant as a chucker. There were never any safewords, but there were a lot of telling looks. People behind the bar hear a lot of your conversations. They usually know what's going on before you do. I've had to escort more people than my job required off of the premises. Look at the bar staff in the eyes and slightly shake your head and we know. Not bar staff, and didn't happen to me. But my boyfriend, military, was roofied in a bar by a girl before we were dating. It's actually apparently not that unheard of for women near military bases to drug rape or coerce men into unprotected sex so they can get pregnant, since the military will take a massive chunk, I think 30-50%, of his paycheck and give it to the baby mama. His buddy got him out before anything happened, but he doesn't remember that night. I worked in a pub club in Glasgow, and there was this night I was the victim of a crazy drunk woman. It happened shortly after the smoking ban. This woman started smoking inside the place and I happened to be walking by with some glasses. I informed her that she had to either put it out or be escorted out by the bouncer. And lucky me had that woman wanting me to escort her out. But I couldn't do it because she actually put her cigarette out and I didn't have any reason put her out of the pub club. Even though I was behind the bar, she kept on hitting on me. Bouncer didn't do anything about it. Other staff were mocking me and even the manager was taking the piss, teasing and instigating the woman. She started asking me for a kiss and the manager said he'd only interfere if I gave her a kiss. It was my first job in Glasgow, as I had just moved from Brazil. I felt humiliated, anxiety kicked in, and, fearing being fired, I had to kiss her to have some peace. After that, depression took over and I didn't last longer in the place. Ended up being fired, but for other reason, but related to bad management nonetheless. I know they have them in the women's room, but I've never seen a flyer in the men's room with the safeword drink on it. Interesting. There should be a different drink for guys like how there's a specifically advertised drink for women. Maybe in Obama, then you can thank Obama for the rescue. As a bartender supervisor, if you come up to me feeling unsafe, you don't need a safeword. Tell me what is happening, and I will take care of you. I don't care what gender you are, all are welcome in the establishments to enjoy themselves. But nobody should feel unsafe. Not heckin' cool. I would be sad to work in a bar where this was needed, not out of caution but perpetuity, and I am glad I do not.